Basara Tojo is stupid. How stupid is he, you ask? Well, this bouffon is so stupid he befriends two voluminous females in the name of them being his sisters. I don't know who this idiot thinks he's trying to deceive, but it's definitely not me. Basara was straight up chillin', like he's been doing all his life until one day, his father decided to flush all his dreams away like the movie Flushed Away, while singing Don't Worry, Be Happy by Bobby McFerrin. According to Basara's dad, he always wanted a sister since he was 10, but Basara cannot remember such cruel and demonic desires. He and his dad were at a restaurant, waiting for his sisters, his new stepsisters. He stepped to the bathroom to ease himself, only to meet a lady putting on her underwear. When he struggled to avert his eyes, that's when he saw the message on the door that says, "The lock is broken." Like every other guy, his first thoughts were to abscond, but before he could do that, she tried to scream, so he turned around like a senior brother when you insult them as they try to peacefully walk away, but now he's coming back to shove your attitude up your behind. He held her mouth with her legs flying every which way. It looked like they were making babies in that position. The young lady, who by the way looked like a 10, and most of us wouldn't dare dream of getting her, with her enormous and juicy looking milk jugs. She calmed down, and as he was thanking her for understanding, just before the girl could ninja kick him into the next life, Basara's pops and a rather sweet-looking girl popped out of nowhere, and we realized he just peeked at his sister's underwear. They all go back to the restaurant, and they introduce himself as Maria and Mio. The next morning, Basara woke up to Mio, right on top of him like she was going to give him the best meat reverse ride he has ever gotten. She moved her waist a little, and for a moment there, Basara and us thought she was about to pull out his meat, but no. She found an 18+ game that is named Plowing My Real Stepsister's Unclaimed Field. Now that name is wild, let me go search it out on Google and see. Hold up, nope. Everything was fine until I opened the videos section. When he got out of his room, he was flustered, seeing Maria in her cooking apron. From that angle, you'd think she's not wearing anything, but she is actually. She galloped to him and asked how much he likes her gift. She was the one who put the game in his room, and from the way she moved her waist and with the look on her face, we'd say she's in need of her unclaimed field to be plowed, mercilessly. Before he could shout about her ruining his morals, Mio popped out saying he already did a thing with her this morning. Just then, his dad passed and he beckoned on his dad to try and redeem him from the mess, but his dad just said he should keep his hormones in check. Barasa and Mio went shopping and he left her for just 1 second, and these roadside bad boys wanted to have their way with her. But Basara pulled the hero card and saved the day. His father had to get up and leave him with the two girls, who reveal that they are demons. They tried to do away with him, but he sent them packing as he revealed that he's a hero, actually, and almost chopped them in half. He later received a call from his dad, who explained that Mio is the only child of the former demon lord, and the present demon lord is after her to milk her powers out of her. I must also comment on Maria, who's a succubus, but who's she seducing with those tiny oranges and her optimum lack of a tangible behind. Mio and Maria were attacked by some Grim Reaper-looking thingy, and just when they thought they had the upper hand, Mio was knocked off the cliff. Basara arrived just in time to save the day again and take the two damsels. No, demons in distress back home. Mio-san was taking her bath while Basara and Maria were having a very serious conversation. Maria wonders why, after finding out that they played him and tried to send him out of his own home, he still helped them. Basara explained that his father, Jin, was the one who explained everything to him, and he's just like his father. He can't let two damsels wander around like a headless and a footless chicken. He decided to have a word with Mio, who's still in the bathing room. They pan the camera all over her plot, and these people have no mercy on my wretched soul. He tried to apologize to her for kicking her out of the house without knowing what condition she was in. She's utterly disgusted that he's apologizing despite not being in the wrong. She collapsed, and after hearing that loud thud, Bro didn't think twice before he opened the door to check what's up. He sees her on the floor and asks if she's okay. She's more worried about the fact that they tried to deceive him, but he's the one feeling apologetic. He said he also hid his identity, and they had other ways to do away with him, but they chose to try and protect him by sending him out of the house. Maria joined the conversation, saying that Basara was quite strong, but he thinks otherwise. Later on in her room, she picked up a portrait of her old family, and memories of how they were destroyed flashed in her mind. She tried to hide her despair. When Maya came in, Maria handed her a new portrait that they took a while away. This is where things get interesting. The dumb succubus came up with a very dumb idea. She said they should take part in a servant-master pact. Basara argues that a phone GPS is just fine because Maria's reason for the pact was so they will be able to find themselves easily. Mio agrees to do it, and as the master-servant pact begins, it flunked because Mio delayed kissing Basara's hand, and as a result, she got a curse instead. The only way to alleviate the curse was, I'm glad to inform you that Basara has to touch her, like touch in order to subdue the curse, but also, because of the curse, she overflows with excess aphrodisiac. He didn't go straight to her milk jugs. He went by her hands as a certified player he is. He passed by her stomach, and then went straight to her milk jugs, and she screamed. Her clothes were taken off, and he had flesh-to-flesh contact with her sweet and sumptuous milk jugs. After all was done, he asked the succubus why she didn't mention the cause, and she said it's because he would deny it if he knew. The next day, he introduced himself to his new class, where he met an old friend of his, Yuki. Right in front of the class, she hugged him, and this made Mio's face go red hot. Mio runs up to find out why they hugged and also screamed out that she lives together with Basara and this is why everyone hates him in school. Yuki asked him to meet up at a restaurant. She reminded him of his mischievous hugs and bum-grabbing he used to do to her before. Then she casually dropped the bomb of telling him to stay away from Mio. Like every normal human being out there, Basara consulted an old friend who was also a hero. Her name was Yuki. The conversation seemed normal, but to the eyes of Mio, who just recently got struck by Lord Cupid's arrow and now has the hots for this guy, Yuki tells Basara to stay far away from Mio and her servant Maria, but Basara is hell-bent on protecting Mio. He explains that Mio is the daughter of the former demon lord, and the present guy who's occupying that seat is kinda wanting to finish her, Mortal Kombat style, and take the power within her. Mio, on the other hand, was trying to keep her intrusive thoughts in place. She's a bit jealous, very wet and shaking like she's gonna have an ORG. I can't say that. Let's say she looks like she's seen heaven. She couldn't take it anymore, so she stood up and walked away from the restaurant. On their way, Mio and Maria cooked up a way to make it up to Basara to take care and protect them. Maria grinned like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons and cooked up something hotter than my girlfriend. When Basara returned home, they immediately told him how they were in much need of bonding. The succubus said they should bathe together. While Basara was about to live every guy's dream, he was still skeptical about their bonding process. They soon start washing his back, and before we can count sheep, Maria was like, and Mio was like, okay. She pulls out her enormous milk factory from underneath those blessed towels. And now, before I move on, I want to comment on Mio's figure. How exactly is her towel holding on to that iron board of a body? So Maria whipped out a cake and rubbed it all over his hands. They both started licking his hands and calling him Oni-chan. Bro goes fully charged. He immediately grabs the two of them and, let's just say some tree ensued. Okay, switch the words and you might get what I mean. The next morning he woke up. He was pretty bummed out and in the arms of the succubus who he was holding firmly her behind. He let her go, and they discussed something important. They get to school, and gosh, I missed it. Mio has a curse that activates any time she thinks of Basara. This anime be cooking. She falls under the curse, and she's taken to the infirmary. The nurse strolled up with an aura so calm and 1,000 stees. She's got melons that look so yummy. She tells Basara that it's his first day in school, and every boy already hates him. She got a call and walked out. Basara stayed with Mio as she insisted, but when he stepped out to get drinks for them, Yuki came in and took Mio to the roof. At the same time, the demons attacked the school. Basara quickly made way to the infirmary, but didn't find Mio there. He traced her to the roof, and while he was doing that, Mio and Yuki already discussed how much of a threat Mio's presence is in Basara's life, and how Basara saved a lot of his kind and lost most of his powers. Basara barged in on their fight, and before he could say anything, a figure appeared behind them and spilled the beans about what the girls have been discussing, and also said that because of Mio, Maria and Basara have been fighting all night for the past few weeks. So Basara is chilling with Mio, but just as things seem calm, boom. One of the masked stranger's lackeys decides it's sneak attack time. Mio doesn't even see it coming, but our hero Basara, instead of pulling out his sword like any sane person would, decides his back is better at blocking attacks. Yeah. Dude's basically turning himself into a walking meat shield. Now, Mio is having a full-on meltdown, screaming apologies like she's in a melodramatic soap opera. The masked guy is having the time of his life, smoldering like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and playing the guilt game hard. Meanwhile, Yuki? She's not having any of it. She's mad and rushes the enemy, but Mr. Mask Guy is faster than a meme disappearing from TikTok FYP when you mistakenly refresh. Every swing she takes, he dodges like he's Neo in the Matrix. Mio's actions are leading everyone into danger. Classic villain move, dropping some truth bombs and then vanishing like he's got better things to do. Yuki is left fuming, but she does her best to heal Basara. After that, she bounces, leaving Basara to think about his childhood. Ah yes, the obligatory traumatic backstory. 5 years ago, little Basara was the hero prodigy, the golden child of his clan. But then Saito, the village's crazy uncle, steals a sacred sword and gets possessed by evil spirits. Things go sideways fast. Saito goes on a rampage, and in a desperate bid to save Yuki, Basara accidentally wipes out half the village. Back in the present, Mio finally gets her act together and decides to sacrifice herself to save Basara. It's all very noble, but honestly, it's also kind of predictable. Just as she's about to be taken by the enemy, Yuki bursts in like she's All Might yelling that he is. Apparently, Mio's ugly crying earlier tugged on Yuki's heartstrings. However, even with Yuki's help, the masked stranger is still the OG, and the girls are getting smacked around like a tennis ball. Basara, despite being sliced and diced earlier, tracks them down and pulls out his signature move. This ability sends any attack into another dimension. Damn, that's so cool! He finally takes down Mr. Mask, but just as they're about to celebrate, another lesser demon pops up and stabs Basara in the gut. I guess they're not done using stabbing the meat shield. Mio loses her mind. Her dormant power starts going berserk, and it looks like she's about to blow up. Basara drags himself up despite being critically injured. He uses Banishing Shift again, this time to get rid of the dangerous overflow of power, saving Mio without turning her into a scattered meat. Whoa, that was visually disturbing. A few days later, Basara meets up with his frenemy Yahiro on a rooftop. Instead of fighting, they agree to a truce because, let's face it, no one wants a replacement enemy who's even more of a pain. Yahiro admits that a demon named Zolga was the one responsible for killing Mio's parents, which definitely adds another layer to the drama. Early one morning, Basara's eyes flutter open to an unexpected and shocking sight. Maria, the flattest succubus I've ever seen, wrapped around him. Stark. Naked. Basara smacks Maria on the head, trying to rouse her from her naughty slumber. As if that wasn't enough chaos for one morning, Basara stumbles into Mio in the shower. Mio ninja kicks him back into his virginity. Out of sheer embarrassment, she throws her usual, "I'll kill you 100 times over" threat at him. It turns out Maria had removed the bathing signboard to mess with Basara. Later, Yuki shows up, offering to help Basara wash his back. Mio catches a glimpse of Yuki's uniform outside the bath and immediately suspects something fishy. Mio's curse activates before she can even get to Basara. Basara decides to carry Mio back to his room. Later, Basara treats Yahiro to a fancy dinner at a local restaurant. They chat about Yahiro's dad, Jen, who was so feared he made the demons think twice about war. Yahiro drops some juicy intel that the higher-ups in the demon world are planning to send reinforcements to capture Mio Yahiro. Also mentions that forming a master-servant pact has perks beyond just tracking each other's location. The more trust between the master and servant, the stronger they become. Just as they're about to dive deeper into their conversation, Chisato, their high school nurse that I would love for her to be my personal nurse, arrives and joins their table. The three of them drink together, and Chisato hugs Basara. Okay, now I'm jealous. Chisato advises Basara to figure out what he's fighting for, and to draw a line he won't cross, even if all hell breaks loose. Before she leaves, she casts a protection spell on him, which she claims is just a simple charm from her village. On the other side of town, Yahiro meets Volga, a brawny newcomer who's apparently the reinforcements Yahiro mentioned. Volga, despite Yahiro's warnings, rushes off to find Mio and complete his mission. After Volga departs, Zest, a female demon and right hand to the evil Zolga, makes an entrance. She's the one responsible for the death of Mio's parents. Back at home, Basara and Maria review the Master-Servant Pact info, confirming its validity. To boost Basara's flirtation skills, they dive into a dating simulator game. The plan? To help Basara gain Mio's trust and loyalty. However, Mio overhears their conversation about letting Basara dominate her completely and gets furious. She drags Maria away in a rage. The next day, Yuki was feeling bold, so she asks Basara out on a date. Naturally, he agrees, and they end up on a shopping spree. Unfortunately, Yuki's plans for a quiet day with Basara get hijacked by Mio, who's like a clingy ex popping up everywhere. Oh gosh, I'm not trying to brag, but I used to have those. Please, brothers. Stay away from girls that are 3s and 4s because the two girls start off on the wrong foot, with Mio acting like a rival from a shoujo manga, but soon they bond over their mutual love of shopping. Just when things seem to be going smoothly, Yuki's younger sister Kurumi shows up looking for her sister. Meanwhile, Basara and the gang start to worry when Yuki goes missing. Cue the dramatic search party montage, which ends up being as effective as trying to find Waldo in a sea of red and white stripes. Basara's search for Yuki gets cut short when Volga, the latest troublemaker, shows up. Despite teaming up with Mio and Maria, Basara struggles against Volga. The dude's skills are so impressive, it's like he's been grinding for levels in a game while Basara was still stuck on the tutorial. Just when things look grim, Takashi appears out of nowhere, channeling his inner guts from Berserk. He delivers a single mighty blow to Volga's chest, showing off his divine spear like it's a rare Pokemon card. Takashi, who's basically the eldest and strongest hero around, then declares a 3 versus 3 deathmatch. What's a bit of a mood killer for Basara is that one of the 3 opponents is his beloved childhood sweetheart, Yuki. Talk about a love triangle with high stakes. Yuki, who's stuck in a tough spot, is forced to face Basara. Shiba, the mysterious observer, just watches from the sidelines. It's like he's in a sports anime, cheering from the stands while the real action happens on the field. With the battle set to go down in a week, Basara and the team have time to prepare. Back at home, Basara goes on a phone call spree trying to reach his dad, Gen, who's known as the War God. That reminds me of Kratos. Gosh, that guy is cool and no bias here. But let's not dive into Wukong. He absolutely demolishes Kratos with his eyes closed. Back to the anime. Gen isn't exactly one for subtlety. He's got a laundry list of grievances against the hero clan for exiling his son, but he's also a supportive dad, cheering Basara on like a coach at a sports event, telling him to crush his enemies and not worry about the fallout. Meanwhile, Kurumi is still fuming about Basara's role in a tragedy from 5 years ago. Her grudge is palpable, and she's waiting eagerly for the duel. Flashbacks reveal that Takashi and Basara were once friends before things went south. Takashi, now itching for revenge, wants to drive his spear through Basara's chest. Back in the present, Basara and Maria work on strategies and leveling up. They even resort to some unconventional methods, including Mio allowing Basara to dominate her, not in a let's be a couple way, but to build trust and strength. Maria, being a succubus, is more than happy to soak up the lustful energy, and someone who has probably watched all the Step Bro Step Sis videos in phub.kurumi, meanwhile, scolds Yuki for getting too attached to Mio, who's just a target. The tension mounts when Yahiro visits Basara and threatens to wipe out all the Hero clan's henchmen if they endanger Mio. That's some serious stakes for a showdown. Later, Yuki calls for a meetup to announce the duel location and pleads with Basara to back out. But Basara, ever the loyal hero, refuses to abandon his stepsisters. It's showdown time. Basara is about to face off against his old buddies from the Hero clan. The fight kicks off with Kurumi, Yuki's little sister, giving Basara a thorough beatdown. Kurumi's relentless assault has Basara black and blue, but he's got a secret weapon up his sleeve, his banishing shift technique. Just when Basara thinks he's got the upper hand, he faces a tough decision. He's about to finish Kurumi off, but being the soft-hearted hero he is, he can't bring himself to hurt Yuki's baby sister. Instead, he catches her and prevents her from falling to her doom. It's like the hero in every feel-good movie who always does the right thing, no matter the cost. Kurumi is so impressed, she starts to warm up to him. It's like when Vegeta starts to respect Goku after getting his butt kicked repeatedly. But of course, things don't stay calm for long. Yuki, who's been chilling on the sidelines like she's watching a tennis match, finally decides to get in the game. She charges at Basara with the determination of someone who just found out their favorite show was canceled. Basara, facing Yuki's lethal attack, remains as calm as a cucumber. It's almost like he's got a "don't worry, I've got this" meme plastered on his face. Yuki reaches him and knocks him out cold, not because she's evil, but to keep him from joining the fray and reinforcing Mio and Maria. Meanwhile, Mio and Maria are holding their own against Takashi, who's wielding his fearsome spear, Bayako. Then Yuki shows up to assist Mio and Maria, attacking Takashi without hesitation. It turns out Yuki wasn't trying to eliminate Basara, but rather to keep him safe. She's developed a soft spot for Mio, and is willing to take on the Hero clan's wrath for her new friend. Back with the unconscious Basara, Kurumi, who started to feel a bit of affection for him, is seen cradling him like a giant sleeping teddy bear. Moment when someone's grumpy exterior softens up. Kurumi realizes that Basara has been suffering too, and starts to let go of her grudge. She even blushes a bit. When Mio arrives, she's not too thrilled to see Kurumi cuddling her stepbrother, so she starts shouting at Basara to wake him up. Basara wakes up just in time to stop Yuki from being sliced to bits by Takashi. Basara, no longer using words but his trusty weapon, takes the fight to Takashi. With Yuki's help, they perform a 1-2 combo that's so epic, it makes you want to shout, Kamehameha! Bayako, Takashi's spear, summons its guardian spirit in the form of a white tiger, but even that isn't enough. Yuki and Basara's combined attack overwhelms Bayako, and Takashi starts provoking Basara, asking him to finish the job. Basara, ever the gentleman, refuses. It's like when you refuse to give in to peer pressure because you know it's wrong. Maou, always the dramatic one, slaps Takashi out of nowhere and starts lecturing him about how hard Basara's life has been. Finally, Shiba, who's been watching from the sidelines like a bored spectator at a sports game, steps in and calls it a day. It turns out Takashi lost control of Bayako, which means the mission is over, thanks to some behind-the-scenes negotiation by Mio's dad, Jen. Mio is back to being a mere observation target, so no more assassination attempts for now. Takashi, begrudgingly, heads back to his village after receiving a death glare from Shiba. Yuki was gone for a few days, and this left a hole as big as, I was gonna say your girl's place of pleasure, but that would be plain out harsh. Yuki popped out of nowhere and explained that the hero clan are willing to turn a blind eye to the recent events. She was about to get her lips all up in Basara's lips, but Mio had to butt in and ruin the moment. And the award of the best cockblocker goes to the one and only former Demon Lord daughter, Mio! Maria, with her usual cheekiness, suggests Yuki should do what Mio did, sign up for a master-servant pact with Basara. Translation: Yuki would get to experience all the wild and lewd stuff that Mio does with Basara, and because Yuki's had a major crush on Basara since forever, she's all in. Maria's suggestion makes both Basara and Mio's jaws drop like they've just seen a llama breakdance. The next day, Basara finds Maria sneaking around the school like she's in a spy movie. Curious, he decides to follow her and ends up in some pretty questionable spots like the girls' restroom. Imagine Basara's confusion as he's dragged through this sneaky adventure, ending up in places he'd never thought he'd see outside of a comedy sketch. Maria, the mischievous succubus, leads Basara into the girls' locker room. It gets even weirder when she places Mio's panties on Basara's head, making him look like he's auditioning for a role in a circus. Just then, Mio walks in, and let's just say she's not thrilled to see Basara and Maria in her locker room, with Basara sporting Mio's underwear like a fashion statement gone horribly wrong. As expected, Mio doesn't hold back and gives them a good smack. The smack also triggers a curse, Mark, which means Basara gets a chance to exact some revenge. In a rare moment of genius, Basara uses the shower head in a way that even Maria finds impressive. Maria's jaw practically hits the floor. Praise. Coming from a succubus is like getting a gold star from a school principal who never hands them out. Later, Basara is left scratching his head when he sees Maria chatting privately with Yahiro. But because Basara is not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed, he buys Maria's excuse that Yahiro was just giving her directions. Meanwhile, Zolga, the demon bad guy, is watching a tape of Mio's past battles. Zolga's got it out for Mio, wanting to drain her powers, and maybe even Basara's banishing shift ability. It's like Zolga's making a shopping list of things he wants to steal, and the two of them are at the top. From the start, Mio's been seriously regretting signing up for the master-servant pact with Basara. All she wanted was to dodge the constant curse that Maria, the cheeky succubus, keeps slinging her way. Everyone's been eagerly waiting for the full moon, the only time the pact can be officially ended. But guess what? Just as Mio's about to get her freedom, another girl, Yuki, arrives on the scene, desperate to become Basara's new pet. She's so eager, she's practically begging to be part of the chaos. Imagine her dressing like a reject from a fashion disaster meme, all in the name of winning Basara's affection. So the big night arrives, and Maria's running the show. This time, Yuki refuses to kiss Basara's hand, which, in a twist that only happens in the weirdest of scenarios, gets her hit with Maria's infamous curse. Now Basara's stuck trying to calm Yuki down. And let's just say, it's like watching a reality show where the contestants are forced into an over-the-top, romantic drama. Unlike Mio, who was all shy and hesitant, Yuki dives in head first. It's like she saw the silver platter, jumped on it, and said, "Dinner's served, Basara." Later, Maria decides that since they're all friends now, they should all bathe together. And no, not just a casual bath, but a full-on communal soak. Imagine trying to dodge awkward questions while in the tub with your childhood crush and a succubus who's seen it all. Meanwhile, Mio's just sitting there. Far away, Zest, Zolga's servant, is watching the whole thing with envy. Poor Zest can't believe how lucky Basara is. The next morning, Yuki and Mio, surprisingly, get along like old pals. Yahiro even gives Basara kudos for his training, which makes Basara blush like he's just been caught with a massive anime crush. He then rushes off to the infirmary, claiming he needs to get his finger patched up. Once in the infirmary, Jisado, the wise old healer, tells Basara to stop worrying about obstacles and start focusing on the best way to deal with them. She even warns him not to take off the bandage until she says so, which just adds another layer of mystery to his already complicated life. Then things take a wild turn. A green-haired girl tackles Basara with intentions that are less romantic and more grab the popcorn. Just when things are getting intense, Mio and Yuki walk in and see this random girl on top of Basara. Mio flips out and runs away in tears, while Yuki handles the situation like she's in a high-stakes action movie, slashing at the green-haired girl, who dodges like she's training for the Olympics. Turns out, this girl is just a puppet, which means there's someone else pulling the strings, like an evil mastermind from every anime ever. Yuki figures out that someone is manipulating things from behind the scenes, and Basara rushes off to find Mio, who's already been snatched by Maria and Zest. Meanwhile, Mio has flashbacks about how Zolga, the wicked demon, killed her adoptive parents and tried to steal her powers. Maria had tried to rescue her back then, but ended up betraying her later due to her own mother being held hostage by Zolga. Basara finds out from Yahiro that Maria's betrayal was due to her mom being in danger, and Zolga, being the evil mastermind that he is, has made it clear that Mio's life is at stake if she stays close to Basara. So with no other options, Basara tries to force a hero to spill the beans on Zolga's hideout. Yahiro, the guy who's basically the anime equivalent of a villainous chef who accidentally makes mess in his own kitchen, has just defeated Basara in a spectacularly one-sided battle. Imagine him tossing Basara's unconscious body around like a rag doll. Talk about taking out the trash. He's aiming for Zest, his frenemy. The plan was to use Basara as a sacrifice to get Mio's freedom. But wait, the plot thickens. Zolgit, the villain who's clearly been binge-watching How to Take Over the World for Dummies, has his own scheme. He wants to grab Mio and Basara's powers, dethrone the current demon lord, and replace him as the new big bad. Enter the hero. Imagine him as the overconfident hero who thinks he's got this in the bag. He threatens to expose Zolgit's schemes to the demon lord Leo Hart. For a brief moment, Zest pulls a classic anime trick, pretending to be all concerned and cooperative. But don't get too comfortable. Zest, wearing her mask of deceit, decides to give the hero a gut-wrenching surprise. Literally. She slices through him with quicksilver speed, leaving him looking like a badly cut sushi roll. The hero's not cooperating. Zest just made sure he won't be moving for a while. Now Zolgit has 2 meals on the menu, Basara and the hero. As Zest hands over Basara to Maria for a bedroom dominance session, it's like Maria's turning the seduction up to 11. She even uses a weird key to morph from a cute Lolita into a sultry teen. Basically an anime transformation scene gone rogue. Despite her best efforts, Basara's not having any of it. Basara breaks free from Maria's charms and vows to rescue her mother. His empathy is as legendary as his ability to mess up villainous plans. Instead of attacking Maria, he gives her a comforting hug. This act of kindness has Maria caught in a dramatic inner conflict. In the meantime, Yuki, who's basically the I can sense my friend from anywhere type of character, finds Mio and frees her. Together, they stand against Zest, who's now outnumbered. Zest gets pummeled. But here's the twist. Zolgit decides to strangle his own loyal servant. Zolgit, annoyed by Zest's wish for a younger master and her recent failure, has no use for her anymore. Just when things seem to hit rock bottom for Zest, Basara swoops in with his banishing shift attack, saving her from becoming a demon pretzel. But oh boy, it's not over yet. Zolgit pulls out his mental hypnosis, making Basara the star of a psychological thriller that's way too intense for a casual watch. Basara's got some serious willpower, and it's his superhuman strength that breaks him free from Zolga's evil grip. But then, Zolga hits him with a mental spell that makes Basara see some seriously wild hallucinations. He's suddenly living out his wildest dreams, surrounded by Mio, Yuki, and more. Just as things are about to get really messy with Zolga, about to deliver the final blow and snatch Basara's powers, Maria, our resident succubus, makes a dramatic entrance. She's ready to kick some demon butt, but Zolga isn't fazed. Instead, he pulls out a live feed of Maria's mom, Shella, in a situation that's a bit too close to a Saw movie for comfort. With a flip of a switch, Shella's life ends in a spectacularly gruesome fashion, and Maria is left devastated. Meanwhile, Mio's having her own meltdown. Seeing Shella's tragic end brings back painful memories of her own parents, who were also victims of Zolga's cruelty. Mio's grief turns into a full-blown berserk mode. Think of her as the Hulk with a vendetta. Zolga, being the twisted genius he is, was totally prepared for this. He knew that hitting Mio with her past trauma would unleash her dormant powers, kind of like poking a dragon with a stick and hoping it doesn't burn you to a crisp. Zolga's plan seems foolproof as he temporarily steals Wilbert's immense power from Mio, thinking he's about to become the ultimate demon. But plot twist. Mio's not just some powerless pawn. Her natural abilities kick in, and she's suddenly stronger than a bull on a caffeine high. Now, here's where things get a bit confusing. Basara stops Mio from going all out on Zolga. Mio's fuming because she's been itching for this moment, but Basara insists that instant revenge won't fill the void inside her. Reluctantly, Mio listens to her stepbrother's wisdom and lets Zolga escape. The scene shifts to Yahiro, who swoops in to catch the runaway demon. Turns out both Basara and Yahiro were secretly plotting together. Yahiro had actually rescued Maria's mom, Shella, and the one crushed to pieces earlier was just a decoy. Zolga, who had been ready for a showdown, is left scratching his head. Yahiro then reveals his backstory. He's one of the orphans from the Great War, and the people who raised Mio were actually amazing, adopting multiple orphans and giving them a new lease on life. So Yahiro is out for revenge, not just for his own sake, but to honor the memory of those who raised him. It's a classic case of good guys in a tough spot. Zolgit, the big bad villain, is playing his ultimate trump card. And no, it's not a shiny new harem of girls. He's got a secret base hidden inside the belly of a monstrous demonic beast. They've been wandering in their death trap all this while. Yeah, that's right. The plot thickens like a bad soup. Zolgit had cast an illusion spell over his base, so that no one in Basara's group would realize they're basically hanging out inside a giant sleeping nightmare. If Zolgit gets taken down, the beast wakes up and decides to have a little earth-shattering party. But Basara isn't about to let himself become demonic beast excrement without a fight. Instead, he's channeling his inner hero and planning to venture deep into the monster's belly, locate its vital core, and use his Banishing Shift's complete version to turn it into a pile of digital confetti. Meanwhile, Zest, who's basically the villain's exasperated sidekick, has switched sides faster than a meme goes viral. Now, she's offering to be Basara's tour guide to the beast's core. Imagine her as the GPS that keeps recalculating when you make a wrong turn, but with fewer traffic updates and more monster guts. Once they're inside, things get sticky, literally. The place is crawling with parasitic creatures and clone lookalikes. And here's another plot twist. Zest wasn't born. She was created by Zolgit as his personal slave. Zolgit's attempts at creating an obedient army resulted in some seriously creepy clones, and Zest's attempts to show any emotion were just an added bonus to annoy him. She's like that rebellious student who just won't stop questioning the teacher, except the teacher's an evil demon lord with a cloning budget. Despite the chaos, Mio and Yuki are backing Basara, giving him the support he needs. But wait, Zest offers to take all the core's attacks herself, ready to sacrifice her life for the cause. Basara, being the hero we didn't know we needed, pushes Zest out of harm's way and uses his Banishing Shift's complete erasure form to obliterate the beast's core. The monster goes down faster than a boss fight in Dark Souls. The fall of the beast marks the end of Zolgit's reign of terror, reducing him to a panicked mess. Basara slips away to witness Zolgit's execution, taking a brief hiatus from heroism to see some justice served. Back home, Basara gives Mio a nudge to explore the demon realm and find her own path. Then Basara, feeling possessive, lunges towards Mio with all the enthusiasm of a cat, spotting a bowl of milk after 3 days of fasting. Yuki intervenes just in time, keeping the situation from turning into a full-blown adult content. The ladies begin to squabble between who gets to grind his meat. Despite his efforts, they just pay deaf ears to all the nonsense he was spitting. Maria was outside. She noted that it wasn't exactly the atmosphere for goodbyes, so she walked away. However, Basara barged through the door and dragged her back in to defuse the situation. Mio and Yuki try to convince her on who would better ride Basara's meat. Instead of giving up the hot steak to one of them, Maria jumped into his meat all to herself. The ladies just stood there dumbfounded that a lady with little or no milk jugs on her could beat them. With the way this ended, I can't help but wonder what the next season has in store for us. If you'd like to be notified when we drop the second season, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment saying, "Next season ASAP."